Hey, everybody. Welcome to what I think is going to be a really, really cool show. And this is the first time for me anyway, that we're doing a live. So, with this going on, what I'm going to encourage you to do is I want you to bring your questions, bring the heat, bring some energy to this so that I can give you the best of what I've learned about work productivity. And actually, this actually goes outside of work productivity and can be used in any kind of situation. But we're going to be talking about something called the working genius today. And it's a very, very cool, it's not a personality assessment, it's a productivity assessment that was created by a person who's written some incredible books on all things business and all things cooperation. His name is Patrick Lencioni. And so he's created this really wonderful process of figuring out for each of us what our geniuses are at work. Now, I don't want to just limit this, since this is a live opportunity. I don't want to limit it just to the working genius, but rather to productivity in general. And then what I'll try to do is I'll try to answer and bring in the working genius concepts into whatever productivity tool or productivity question or engagement question you guys might have. And then also, just if I have any other thoughts or experience in something that I can do to help, I will share that with you as well. So I know that we're just getting live, and so I don't want to start the information too quick in case people from other platforms are coming on board, and just giving everyone a time to, just kind of get going and get comfortable in this. So, oh, by the way, please don't forget to follow us on social media, whether that's on Instagram, Facebook. We're on all those channels. We have a YouTube thing going on. And all of this is to try to bring information to you that will hopefully help you make a difference. If you follow us on our podcast, the name of the podcast is the Difference Makers Podcast. And the reason is we really work hard in our law firm here at Ramos Law to make a difference. But not only that, we would like to help you in whatever way you can make a difference as well. So on the podcast, if you've not listened to that before, we have a wide variety of guests and talk about a wide variety of topics. So even though we're a law firm that focuses and specializes on people that have been in accidents or have had other personal injury situations or work comp situations, while that's what we're pretty much known for, in all actuality, our bigger mission is to help people in any way we can. And so because of where we've been in our journey, we know a lot of really cool people that have done a lot of really cool things. So that's what the podcast is all about, getting people on board to share their stories and share their messages. So this is part of our Difference Makers project, if you will. And this is our first live, like I said. So I'm really excited. Hopefully, for those of you that are really getting into this, you'll send some questions on the chat. We'll be able to look at this. I have Gabe with me here, who's doing all of the videography stuff, making sure that I'm looking at the right place and doing the right thing. And then Anita has put all this together. So I want to give her really big props on this. And if you saw our very, very, very first live as a law firm, it was Anita, and she did a great job on that and had some good questions that were asked of her as well. So again, if you guys have questions about the working genius, if you have questions about engagement or productivity at work, I'm going to encourage you just to throw them in the chat, and I will do everything that I can in order to answer those for you. So, oh, and by the way, as you're coming up with all of these things, if something occurs in your mind of something else that you'd like to talk about, you can reach out to me after the show. My email here at the law firm, it's jim@ramoslaw.com. And you can say, hey, would you guys do a live chat about this or that? Or would you have a podcast guest in? We really want to be interactive with you. And so that is the whole purpose of us doing this, this kind of content. So live, and I've seen people do it and I've watched them before. So this is my first time doing it. So if you can, just give me that energy, give me that love of showing some comments and engagement, and I will do what I can to make this awesome for you. So, so far, we want to make sure that if we're looking at any comments, I have one that says, what are the 6 working geniuses? So we're going to get started. If someone's interested, they've obviously heard enough about this to know that there are 6 working geniuses. Let's define the situation first. When it comes to work, a lot of people say this: do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I 100% agree with that. And so how do we find out what it is that we love to do? How do we find out where we should be spending our time so that it feels more like joy instead of like work? I'll give you a couple of stories for this. So my training is as a chiropractor, right? So I graduated from chiropractic school in 1991. So a long time ago. And I so absolutely loved the chance to treat patients, and treated tens of thousands of people over a 20-year career of focusing on just chiropractic, and had a wonderful time. And it brought me so much joy. And then there was a point in time in my career that I had gotten some additional training and really started understanding the business side of the chiropractic practice. And I found this really great desire to help people grow, specifically to help chiropractors grow. So my role changed from being a practicing chiropractor to then going into a group where we would take chiropractors, we would help them build their companies, their businesses, their practices. And from there, that then would just allow me to reach more people than I could ever touch with just my hands alone, right? That I could ever adjust. So now I was helping their businesses grow. And so my passion changed over time. And then going from that company into the law firm, where now acting as the chief operating officer, the COO, me getting a chance to now work with our company, our business, and our team to help them grow in leadership and help them find their voice and help them find their productivity. And all of it goes down to me being, as we're going to use this, the statement going forward, being in my genius. So let's talk about working genius. It is not a personality profile. It's more of a productivity tool. So the difference is, for those of you that have not taken personality profiles, I highly recommend it. They're cool. And there's a bunch of them. The one I'm most familiar with, so that I prefer, is called the DISC profile. And what it'll tell you is what kind of person you are with respect to, are you an alpha type, what's called a driver, or are you someone who's an interrelater, a people person? Are you more of someone who is all about the team and you're what's called a steady relator? Or are you someone who's really into details, kind of that consummate, it's all about getting things done on task and on time? So those are personality profiles. What the working genius profile does is it basically loves to take how you answer these questions and then put them into groups of geniuses, competencies, and frustrations. So to be clear, the working genius model is not one that's going to say how you perform in every situation, what you love and you don't love. But what it is going to do is take that same information and apply it to how you do at work. What brings you engagement, fulfillment, and joy? That's not to say you can't be good at other things, but when you start realizing what your geniuses are versus your frustrations, the more time you can spend in your geniuses, the more time that you're going to have that enjoyment and fulfillment at work. And that's where, when I was giving you that little example of myself earlier, man, it's so great for me to spend, literally, I spend the majority of every single day in my career right now in my geniuses. And I'll share with you what my two are in a moment, after I give you what the background of all the geniuses are. And then we can talk about how that works and what you can do, because know this, every job is what's called a 6-letter job. Remember, we said there were 6 working geniuses. Every job is a 6-letter job. All the geniuses need to be incorporated, and every task or project is a 6-letter project. So let's define what those letters are right now. We'll start with that, and then we'll go from there. By the way, RJ got your comment. That's so cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. RJ's, he says, been a fan, following y'all for years. That's super cool. Thank you for that. Love that. Now going on to the genius type. So the first and for you to remember this, it's really easy. The first letter of each of the geniuses, if you plot them out next to each other, it spells widget, WIDGET, widget. And that's pretty cool, because if you look at the working genius model, each of the letters, it looks like a little gear, like a widget. And then one connects to the next, connects to the next, connects to the next. I don't know. I'll actually see if I can show this to you, and you may or may not be able to see it, but if you can see that, you see the little gears grind together perfectly so that they create a seamless machine. So let's define the widget term. Widget. So the first letter is W, and the W in widget stands for wonder. And wonder is that personality that just says, that you'll hear them say that a lot. Well, I wonder if this, and could it be that? And what's the potential for, and do we really need this? All of these things are questions that the wonderer asks. If we look at what Lencioni says about the wonderer, he says, people with the genius of wonder love to speculate and question. They ask questions like, why are things the way they are? Is there a better way? And then they love to sit in the ambiguity of it. So these are not your big decision makers. They're the what's possible thinkers. And that's what makes wonder beautiful. Now, by the way, one of these is not any better or worse than another. So no matter which geniuses you possess, it's to be celebrated and not to be like, oh man, you mean I don't have good blank, whatever one that you wish that you had? It's no, just where's your strengths? Where's your weaknesses? Where are your geniuses? Where are your frustrations? All these things work together. So we talked about wonder. The next one in our widget model is invention. And what invention is that's that person that has the ability at any time to create different solutions. So if you were to say, boy, I'd really like to, I'll make this up, right? I'd really like to start a new online business. Then the inventor could say, well, here be the opportunities that you have. You could do this particular sector of the market. You could look at going you could look at going to the right and do this. You could take this path and go to the left. They are great about coming up with things and ideas to get a project off the ground. So they're high level thinkers in that respect. If the wanderer is the dreamer, the inventor is the one that says, here are the opportunities that we have to make your dream come to fruition. So those are the inventors. Next, we come to the D in widget, which are the discerners. Now think about this. If in a project, this makes total sense, right? You're going to start something new, whether it be you going into a new project, or you're looking to, your organization's looking to do something new. At first, you have to wonder about it. How is it going to work? And you start inventing the ways to do it. But at some point in time, you need to discern what is the best path. And discerners are uncanny in that they don't even have to have a lot of experience with something. And the next thing you know, they can come up with the right answer, the right solutions, or at least the best solution for this point in time. Again, even if they don't have a lot of experience with it. And that's what's really cool. I know some discerners, it is not in my genius. And so to watch these people act with very little information and to time and time again come up with the great path, the great choice, it's really amazing. And again, for those of you just joining us, we are going through the Working Genius model by Patrick Lencioni. So far we've gone through, we're defining the terms. What is the widget model? So we've talked about wonder, we've talked about invention, we've talked about discernment. So then when we look at the next one is called the galvanizer. And the galvanizer is a person that has usually a pretty high energy level, and they're the rally the troops person. They go, hey guys, right on. This thing, we've got this project discerned. We know that this is the path we're going to take. Now we need to get the team behind us and let's go do it. So the galvanizer is kind of a disruptor. They're an action type person that's going to get things moving and keep things moving. So from there, we go to the E in the widget model, which is the enabler. And the enabler is the person that they're the one that you love to work side by side with, because the enabler says, what do you need? I got you. We can get this done together. I'll be your biggest fan. I'll support you all the way through. And then they really do their steps to make sure that progress is made and that things come to completion. And then the final genius, if you will, is the T in the widget model. T is for tenacity. And the tenacity is the person that says, you know what? Give me the list. Get out of my way. We will get this thing done on time. We'll get it done on budget, and we'll get it done at or above standard. The ultimate, interestingly enough, all of these things all of these geniuses are in combination, so that what the Lencioni group is called the table group, but what these folks found out was that when you're doing these types of assessments, that all of us are basically hardwired. So this isn't something that you learn over time. I get that question a lot, whether these are learned and adaptable or whether they're more wired, like nature or nurture kind of thing. And the answer is predominantly by nature, you're given these things. But then depending on how you were nurtured growing up, then one of your geniuses or both of them, they have been allowed to be expressed by the influences in your life, your parents, your teachers, your clergy, your friends, or they may have been put down. So you may not even realize what your geniuses are, because while they're inherent to you, you haven't been exercising them, but you'll know because it feels right when you start getting into them, like, that is just like me. So let's talk about the pairings. The pairings, basically what it amounts to is this. We all have two things that after you go through the assessment, they call them your geniuses, meaning when you're in the zone of doing one or both of these things, you are like, oh, this is heaven. It's absolutely amazing. And I can't believe I get to do this every day and I get paid for it, right? That's when you're in your geniuses. The next two, now remember, everyone has two, two, and two. The next group of two is your competencies. And oftentimes in your competencies, you can be very good at them. But the challenge is that if you work in your competencies all the time, number one, you might get recognized and reward for it. But number two, you're not in your geniuses. So the danger of being in your competencies too much is that it can lead to burnout and it can lead to frustration. And it'll do that over the long term. That won't happen right away because, again, you're getting praise and you're really darn good at a lot of these things. And then when you do them, what happens is you get noticed. And when you get noticed in recognition, what happens? The people who notice you give you more of that to do. And so then you take on more and you take on more. And as you keep going through that process, what is that doing? It's taking you out of any time allowed for you to go back into your genius. So as we're starting this, going through pairings, again, please, if you have questions, shoot them out here. I keep looking for any other questions that come around and we will answer them along the way. But on with the pairings. The next and third category of genius pairings is your working frustrations. And when it comes to working frustrations, you all know what this feels like. If you are spending time doing things that you absolutely, and again, you could be good at it, but if they don't bring you joy, if they seem like it saps your soul, if you have that going on, that would be considered your working frustrations. Now you're going to ask, well, Jim, what do you do if my job requires me to be in my working frustrations? And that's a really valid and interesting question. Because here's the thing, you might have taken the job that you took because you thought you wanted to do something and you didn't know what the job requirements are. And when you got in, you thought that it was going to be working a lot with people. And it turns out you're working a lot just with spreadsheets. Well, if you really love working with people, in the DISC profile, you would be an I, a high I personality profile. Then that would be like, oh, that'd be like torture. In the working genius model, if you really love galvanizing, if that's what you love doing, or you love dreaming and wondering, and all you do is work in spreadsheets all day, that could be a problem. So you're going to say, again, now the follow-up question is, well, my job requires these things. What am I supposed to do about it? If your job requires it, and that's where you're at, and you're happy enough in your job for now to keep doing these things, the first thing you do is you step back and you evaluate, is there a way that I could use my geniuses? Once I realize what those are, is there a way that I could use my geniuses and still get the job accomplished? That's number one. Number two is looking to see if you work as part of a team, is there a way that you could take on some of the job duties of someone else that would fall into your geniuses? And if their geniuses were in the things that were really sapping your soul, is there a way that you could alter your job description? Sometimes that's yes, sometimes it's no. And then the third thing that you could do is you could say, I get it. There are some times that I need to be in my working frustration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify in my mind, hey, Jim, you're in frustration time right now. You got to get some working frustration stuff done. So to give you an example, my working genius is enablement and galvanizing, which means I'm the ultimate cheerleader, right? I'm the rally guy. I got you. Let's get it done. And I'll describe what my pairing defines as in a moment. But that means for me, if you give me tedious detail work, it's brutal for me. It's not that I can't do it, but I got to get my mind right to do it. For example, here's a great example. I've been asked by my beautiful daughters if I would do their wedding. They're getting married here in July. And they asked if I would do their ceremony. And of course, it's the biggest honor that a dad could ever have, is to be able to do something like that. And so for me, I've done a handful of these. It's not what I do. And so, I've maybe done 5 or 6 of them. And they're very personal to me. I want to make sure that they're all really, really good and really, really different. So I don't have a script I read. I don't go from, some prepackaged plan on a wedding deal. Like, I literally interview the couple. I ask myself questions, I find out things about them, and then I make something specifically for them. And so for me, doing like the creative part and the conceptualizing is really fun. And actually then getting up in front of the group and doing it is really fun. But the thought of putting it all together is brutal. And so I know, this thing's coming up in July, and I knew that it's time for me to start making progress on this so I can just do my best work for them, for my beautiful kids, and make sure that this is part of their memories that they treasure forever. So literally yesterday, I said, I got to go into tenacity time, right? And again, my frustrations, I don't know if I said my geniuses, I shared that with you, galvanizing and enabling. My competencies are discernment and wonder, or sorry, discernment and what is my other one? It's it'll come to me anyway. But my weaknesses are tenacity and wonder. So tenacity and wonder are my frustrations, and I got to put this thing together. So I spent 5 hours yesterday being tenacious to get this done, but it was okay because I knew that it was a project with a purpose, and so I could just get out of the working frustration what I needed to, and then get back into my working genius. So now I'm going to do a quick commercial and let you guys know that we're having we're going to be doing our next live with Joe LaRusso. It's going to be May 23rd at 2:30 Mountain Time. So whatever time zone you're in. And Joe is he's an aviation attorney that works with pilots all over the country. So if you know someone, if you're a pilot, you know someone who's a pilot, please make sure that you tune in for that. And then if you're looking for this, again, register for this, get this online registration done at Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. That's where you can get your seat in this and bring people with you. This guy has got some amazing stories and he flies for NASA. So for no other reason, it'd be really cool for you to jump online and say, hey, Joe, tell me what it's like to fly for NASA. Because what he does is he flies into storms with a cool plane and measures all the output of the forces and all that kind of stuff. So, so anyway, look for that. And so, and again, we're at about 20 minutes now. What questions? If you have other questions, I can certainly answer those. Oh, there's one I see from Bradford. Hey, Bradford. Question is, how can I find out what my coworkers' working geniuses are? So if you want to find out what geniuses are, after describing them and defining them, you may very well think like, oh, this one sounds like me or that one sounds like me. But if you want to know for sure, all you have to do is to go to theworkinggenius.com. And then there you can purchase an assessment. And I mean, they're cheap. They're $25. And so you can take the assessment and then it actually gives you the printout. So what we do here at Ramos Law is, because this is the model that we're using to help our team connect and communicate and to put each other in the best chance for success, we wanted to be masters at it. So what we did is we wanted a facilitator, someone who's been trained in this. So fortunately, that was me. I got to go through the coursework, become the facilitator, and now I'm able to work with all of our team members, one group at a time, to figure out how we work together. So if you want to find this out, great question, Bradford. Thanks for asking that. If you want to learn more, go to workinggenius.com, take the assessment, and then it'll give you that report. If a group of you as a team do it, if you let them know, they will create what's called a team map. And we have had incredible breakthroughs with our teams by doing these team maps. Here's a perfect example. We had one of our locations. There are 8 people on that team. And so we had them all take the test. And it was interesting because all of them but one had the exact same 2 geniuses. Now, that's great on one side when we're working on that side, but it sure makes things challenging if they're not in that zone. And here's what their geniuses were. It was enablement and tenacity. And it turns out that enablement and tenacity is the ultimate combination of the worker bee, the people that get stuff done. They're amazing. I mean, all you got to do is give them the task. Don't ask them to figure out what to do and invent. Don't ask them to decide what the best route is. And don't ask them to create it. Ask them to get it done. And they're amazing. So again, this may bring up questions. Please, please, please ask any questions. Oh, Brian, thank you so much, man. Brian says that great information. Much appreciated. Oh, question from Julian. What's your recommendation for teaming people up or creating teams utilizing the 6 geniuses? Julian, that's an interesting question. I'm going to address that and then we'll go back to what we were talking about. When it comes to getting people teamed up, what you want to look at is, number one, what's the context of how you're going to be using the information, how you're going to be using the test. If you're using it at work, then you say, are you working on, are you a person that works on projects? Are you a person that works in departments? Are you a small company of 3? Because if you're in a small mom and pop company, whether that's 3 or even 10, then everyone's doing everything to some degree, right? You're not super specialized. Here at the law firm, we have close to 200 people between all of our locations. Like, we're licensed, I think, in 22 states. We have locations throughout Colorado. We have a location in Arizona. so we got a lot going on. So what we have to do here is we work in two levels. One is on location, because all of the people in a single location have to coexist, right? They have to make sure that they're coming together to do things as a unit. For example, if we got to do, keep the kitchen clean, how do we make sure that we get that done together? And whose genius is going to guide that? That would be someone who would, we would figure out the system through the discernment of what the wanderers and the inventors do. We would discern what the best process is for keeping the kitchen clean. And then we would galvanize, hey, how are we going to implement this system? Guys, let's go. And then we would execute with our tenacity and our enablement in order to make sure that we follow that plan. So we look at it from the perspective of location and then teams. So for example, all of our digital marketing team, they're going to be doing all of the tests together. Our aviation team will be doing all the tests together. And so we're gradually working this through the process so that we can make sure that becomes effective. So in your group, how would you guys use it? If you're on a team, then all the coaches, for example, would do it, because there are some coaches that are all galvanized. Hey boys, come on, let's go, ladies, we're going to do this thing. And there are some people that if tenacity is your key thing, if you're a tenacity and discernment person, there's not going to be a lot of warm and fuzzies encouragement. It's going to be, you're going to get this crap done, and you're going to get it done right, and you're going to get it done now, or you're going to be sitting on the bench, right? So understanding what role is needed at what point in time, that's how you start using these things practically. So looks like we have another question here. We have a question from Sarah that says, what influenced your choice in picking Working Genius specifically as a means of assessment? Great question, Sarah. Here's what happened. Actually, again, I've been a big personality assessment person for a long time. I've done DISC, which is my favorite and my most familiar, done Strengths Finders, done Enneagram, done all kinds of stuff in order to kind of get to know who I am. And so when this came across, Dr. Ramos found it. And when he gave it to us and said, just as the core group of leaders, he gave it to 5 of us and said, I want you guys to take this test, and then we're going to talk about it. I knew nothing about it. And literally I rolled my eyes and I'm going, oh, great, another personality profile. But what I didn't understand at the time is, again, this is not a personality profile. So like we talked about earlier when Patrick Lencioni, the head of the table group, created this assessment, it was far more about a productivity tool rather than a personality assessment. So Sarah, this was the first and only productivity tool that I had seen. And because he brought it to us, I thought, well, if we're going to start using this, someone needs to really know it so that it can be an effective tool that we can implement across our platforms and our organization. So that is a great question. And actually, I hadn't been exposed to any until recently. Last week, I think I saw one it's called the Kolbe test, Kolbe. And it's very similar in what it's measuring, but it's obviously got its own variables and its own scoring system and all the rest of it. And for me, the simplicity of the Working Genius and the way that it ties things together for me has been fantastic. So now I want to jump back real quick to what I was telling you. So we're doing this group. They're all ETs, right? And there's no invention, zero invention in any of their competencies or in their genius. It's all in their frustrations. So then one of the people in this office is responsible for we call it the managing attorney. And the managing attorney works with the managing partner in each location. So our managing partner covers the entire organization. Then we have managing attorneys for each location. And the managing partner said to the managing attorney, hey, listen, you know what, with you kind of taking that thing by the reins there, I want you to just do what you do. Just kind of do your thing. You know our system, you know our standards, you know our core values. So, I want to give you autonomy. And for that person, literally, that was the worst thing that they wanted to hear. They did not want to hear that, because what are they? They're an ET, which means just get it done. Their frustrations were in, what are we doing and how are we going to get it done, right? How are we going to invent this? And so when they were told, just go ahead and do it your way, they hate creating the way. They like executing on the way, deciding which is the best version for them. That was in their strength. And so by us having that conversation, it allowed then for now the managing partner knows, oh, with this person, if I give them all of the options, they're going to be fine at deciding which option works best. And then with her and her team, they can all go get it done. So that's a great example of how it's been effectively used in our organization. That's just one story. It's been fantastic as we've gone through the process of really understanding these, because here's the deal. It gives us vocabulary and language to talk about our strengths and the things that frustrate. Because again, don't confuse frustration with weakness. Sometimes people can be really good at tenacity, but it really frustrates them and it sucks the life out of their souls. So one more quick reminder, please remember to follow us on social media, right? I know, we're going to say that now and again, because we do want to make a difference and make an impact here. So now, anyway, I want to give you an example of a few definitions of what we can do with this, and just see if any of these sound like you. So I'm going to pull up the pairings and I'm going to read you mine. And I have Gabe and Anita are in the background. They have not seen any of this. All right. So I just want them to let me know when they hear this, if this sounds like me. All right. You guys ready? Okay. So they're listening, they're watching this. So I'm a EG, right? I'm a galvanizer and enabler. And here's the definition of that. It's called the enthusiastic encourager. People with this pairing derive joy and energy from inspiring and supporting others to grow, improve, and feel good about themselves. They're positive, exuberant, and optimistic, gladly demonstrating their excitement about the potential of others. They are consummate cheerleaders in the truest sense of the word. In their desire to be positive, they can sometimes be too quick to affirm others or provide unwarranted praise, leaving them to be potentially dismissed or perceived as naive or insincere. We call this pairing the enthusiastic encourager. So you guys have known me for a while. Does that sound a little bit like me? They're both laughing and nodding their heads. So that when I read that, it literally hits me spot on. Again, is it a personality profile? I guess in that sense it is, but at work, it's 100% who I am. And when I get to do those things, it's great. But then it also talks about, where my key potential sticking point is, which is giving praise too early or in a like when it wasn't truly earned. And so it can be dismissed as insincere or naive. The other thing that it can do from a negative side in my particular situation, and I've experienced this, is to not give people the honest feedback because I'm trying to build them up and lift them up versus to tell them what they need to hear through kindness with candor to help them grow. So all of these things, right? Our biggest strengths can be our biggest weaknesses. So let me read another pair that's completely different from mine. This one would be someone who they have discernment and tenacity. It's called the judicious accomplisher. People with this pairing derive real joy and energy from getting the right things done efficiently and effectively and using their judgment to avoid wasting time and resources. They get a lot done by identifying the highest priorities and holding themselves to high standards of execution. They're prudent, focused, and diligent. They often feel unnecessary angst about the possibility of failing or when working with others who do not share their high standards in driving for closure. We call this pairing the judicious accomplisher. See, for me, even reading that, it doesn't resonate with me. I'm just like, what? Like, who are these people? But I know that we need them. And so when I look as a great example, so Dr. Ramos, his geniuses are discernment and tenacity. And so what that means is when we give him a bunch of ideas, he's going to say, yep, I like this one. Let's go this way. Let's go this way. And then he's going to make sure that those things are absolutely driven forward, right? When I look at our CEO, Daniel, he's discernment and tenacity. So those two together really help. And so now what they need in driving these initiatives forward. So let's just say, for example, this is in our organization, but you can use this in any, including a family organization, right? And if you plan on a vacation, the same thing holds true. But let me give you this example. So when we are starting a new initiative, whether it's bringing in a new vertical, like, not only do we do personal injury, but we do workers' comp, we do aviation, we do consumer protection. So we got a lot of things going on. If there's a new one that we want to bring into the fold, then, between we'll throw out all these ideas with our wondering, and the wonderers in the room are the same two guys that it's their competencies that have the genius of discernment and invention. So they're the same two, right? So we'll throw out all these ideas, they'll wonder, they'll discern it. And then once we decide what direction we're going in, then what their weakness, wrong term again, not weaknesses. What their frustrations are is galvanizing. They do not enjoy that. Can they do it? 100%. But then what they do is they allow me to get into my genius to say, this is the direction we're going. These are the people we need to make it happen. Now I get to go rally them. I get to go inspire them. I get to go help them know why this is going to be beneficial for them and others. So that's a great example of how that works. So let's look at another question. It looks like the question says, can someone have more than two working geniuses or frustrations? And the answer is Basically, no. So the way that they've derived the system is you get two geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. And when you look at what your third one is, so your first competency, a lot of times people can do that one for a long time and it feels like genius. The metric for that would be to say, or the barometer would be to say, okay, if I'm doing, let's just say for me, but after my enablement and my galvanizing, the next one for me is my invention. So that's my third strength. So if I'm inventing, I'm really happy, but not as happy as I am when I'm doing galvanizing and enabling. So for example, in the tenacity work that I did yesterday for the girl's wedding, I also had to invent what the concepts were going to be, right? What is the structure going to be? What are the themes that I want to use in this wedding ceremony? And so for me, that was really cool, but it's just not as cool or as fulfilling. So great question, Rami. It's something that, no, you get two geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. Now, back to the topic at hand. When we're looking at these pairings and we're looking at how we can use them, if you can figure out what your pairing is, then almost the opposite of that would be your frustrations. They never have created to this point a listing of what frustration pairings are and what that feels like, because the goal is to get you to figure out ways to do more in your working genius model. So enough said about pairings. Let's talk about projects. When it comes to projects, one of the things that's important for us all to realize, like we said earlier, and again, we're reviewing the information from Patrick Lencioni on his working genius model. You can find that. You can go to workinggenius.com. You can take it, and for $25, you can find this information for yourself. But when we're looking at how projects work, think about projects like the way it's described is thinking about a project at elevation. So if we're all on a plane and we're at 30,000 feet, we're way up there. That's where the initial starting point of any project is. So if you want to get something new, let's just say you guys, now we'll take it all the way the opposite end from what we've been talking about at work. We'll take it to a family. Let's say you as a family are going on vacation. First, you have to decide, are you taking a vacation? Why do you want to take a vacation? Where are you going to go on vacation? Who's going to be on the vacation, right? This is all the wonder part of the process. That's at high altitude. So once you decide what you're going to do as a vacation, is that on the docket? The next thing you do on that project is you invent. So how are we going to get there? Is it going to be plane, train, or automobile? And who's going to go? Who's going to buy the tickets? How are we going to make sure that we get from one place at the new city to another? Are we going to go watch some sporting events? Or what are we going to do there and how are we going to do it? That's now inventing your vacation. So now we're at 28,000 feet on this project. Now, someone or a group of people that have discernment as a very high either genius or competency need to look at that and go, first of all, is this a really good idea? We want to go on a vacation, but it's going to cost us $80,000 and we're going to put it all on a credit card. Is that really, really a good idea? So the discerner is going to flesh all that out. They might be the one that you might think of as poking holes in the plan to make sure that it's valid. So you're going to discern and make sure that this is the vacation, this is the time, this is the spot, these are the people. So you're just bringing that project into discernment, into focus. Then after that, now comes the galvanizing. Now you get all the people involved, rallied, ready, and excited to go on your vacation. Well, once you get there and you're at that point, you're rallied. Now we need some enabler and tenacity to basically engage everybody going, make sure that we're going to get the tickets. They're going to get bought on time. Make sure we have a ride to the airport or to the train station. Make sure all the cars are gassed up, all that stuff, making sure that gets done. That comes to enable and tenacity. And think about this. Now the plane has gone all the way from wondering and ideating at the top at 30,000, now in galvanizing and in basically creating the decisions. Then and discernment, we're going to be at 10,000. And now we get down to 5,000 when we're getting the enablement going and we're landing that plane with tenacity of actually making things happen. So any more questions that you have about this, please let me know. And remember also, here's another thing. We were talking about the podcast earlier. That podcast releases every Monday at 4 a.m. our time. Now, I'm not up to do that or see that at 4 a.m. But if you're an early riser and you want to listen to our podcast, it releases every Monday at 4 a.m. our time, which is Mountain Time. So any questions that you guys have about the Working Genius as a project, a process, or a productivity tool, please let me know. Just look here. Oh, here's a question. If I've not been able to take the Working Genius assessment yet, who would I ask about that? Again, if you're in this case, the person is from our firm. And so that would be that you would ask, if you're in our firm, talk to myself, talk to Ian, we'll get you set up on that. Outside of this, again, look at these things. All you got to do is go to the website, check it out, workinggenius.com, and you can find the answers there for not only what the assessment is, what it looks, the background of it. There's actually, Lencioni actually wrote a book on this, on the Working Genius assessment. It's pretty cool because everything he writes, when he writes all of his books on business concepts and relationship dynamics, they're all based in a fable form. So you can get through them really fast and still learn the poignant concepts. So that's been pretty cool. So yeah, if you want to look at taking that test, you go to workinggenius.com, take the test, pay $25, and it'll give you the report in a beautiful way. And we said this earlier too, for a team that wants to do this, whether it's a work team, whether it's a team at a nonprofit organization, whether it's a sports team, whoever, you guys can take these individually and then hit what's called a team map. And then the team map, it's going to describe for you and share what the strengths are of the team and what the frustrations are of the team. So the geniuses and the frustrations. And the reason that's so important is because you don't know what you don't know, right? Here's the thing. And I experienced this 100%. I couldn't figure out why, right? So I'm my mid 50s now. I've been around. I had owned multiple practices. I did all these different things, had a lot of life experience. And I was getting frustrated and actually kind of feeling guilty about something, which is our CEO, Daniel Filbert, incredible guy, incredible friend. And I couldn't figure out why decisions seemed to come to him more naturally, given that he's a lot younger than me. Why was his decision-making so good when I had the experience, right? When I had the background that he just hasn't had enough life under his belt yet to have. Like, what was that all about? So I was kind of feeling bad. Like, why aren't I better? And this tool gave me such liberation of that guilt on myself of like, how do I get better at that? Not that I don't want to get better at that, but if you look at where, where I fall in my D, it's in my competencies, but it's in his genius. And man, did that just help me go, and you know what else it helped me do? It helped me know when there's a tough decision to be made and I'm thinking through it, that I can ask Daniel and I can say, hey man, what do you think about this? Not that I want to give him more work to do, but just in the same way that galvanizing is in his frustrations, when he now knows, because we speak this language together, he doesn't have to go galvanize people. All he has to do is let me know the galvanizing piece, and then I'm on it. Right. So it's allowed us to shift some of those things to allow us to be in our genius and to do things better. So not only does it give you it takes away kind of that, for lack of better terms, guilt and shame of doing certain job duties, but also it allows us, when we see someone where for us, it's in our genius and for someone else, it's in their frustrations, it's the ultimate preventer of us judging them, going like, it's so easy. Come on. You just got to be able to do it. Why don't you just get this done? So for example, if I'm asking them to do something as a leader at the firm here, if I'm asking them to do something that requires tenacity all the time, like if it's going to be months of tenacity to get this done and tenacity is in their frustration, then now that I know that, if I know that their working frustration is not in tenacity, then guess what? If they have to do it, I have to figure out ways to make the tenacity be natural versus unnatural. Or can I find someone to help them on the tenacity side where they're only doing small parts of the project, not the whole few months project? Here's a great story about this. This was so important and eye-opening to me that I had my kids do it, right? I had my family do it so that as they're going through their lives, and my kids are all adults now, and so they're in the middle of their lives, and I wanted them to be able to relate to each other and into the places where they're working. So I ended up basically having kids take it. And what I found is one of our oldest, he and his fiance, they had, both of them had their geniuses and their competencies, which made total sense. And both of them had tenacity as a frustration. And so it was funny because we were laughing about it because they have a couple projects that are amazing and they've been working on them for a long, long time. Right. And so as we mentioned that tenacity was a frustration for both of them, they're like, wow, that explains so much why we haven't gotten this project done for, now 3 years, literally 3 years on a project they had planned on getting done over a summer. But as we went through it, then the follow-up question that was frustrating to our son was, well, then but that's what we need. So we need tenacity, but we don't have it. So does that mean that we're screwed? And I said, no, here's what you do. All you have to do is say, do I have anybody else that can take some of those roles? And if the answer is yes, then great, you allow them to do that. But if the answer is no, then the way to get around these things is through systems and scheduling. So that I said this, check it out. My son is a workout fiend, amazing shape, incredible, just physique. And, he doesn't have tenacity, but yet he's put all this hard work in the gym, right? Because you know why? Number one, he loves it. So if you can do tenacity a lot more in an area that you love, even if it's in your frustration. But number two, it's a scheduled part of his day. So it's consistency. Consistency will equal tenacity if you do it consistent enough at enough time. So for them, what we ended up doing was just saying, okay, for this particular project, knowing that what you want to do, let's give yourself a long enough timeline so that you don't feel pressure to get it done where you have to do it 5 or 6 hours a day. Instead, let's give you just a little bit where you do it every single day. Let's give you an hour, 45 minutes or an hour, and do that regularly. And at that point, we'll see where it goes. And then you build the tenacity in so that you can just make sure that you get the project done and it doesn't feel tenacious. So there's ways to work through all of these things if we wanted to talk about those. Let's see. More questions. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. I got all kinds of things going on. Hey, Bradford, that's a good one. Do I think this is a question that has nothing to do with working genius? Bradford, I see you, buddy. Do I think that the Pleiadians built the Great Pyramid at Giza or the Greys? Well, that depends on if they're using sonic radar and sound to move these things, or if this was just an otherly worldly experience. So you and I can lock down and watch some Ancient Aliens and probably get the lowdown on that. So, thank you for that completely relevant question. Appreciate that. Remember also, guys, Joe LaRusso, our aviation attorney, he's going to be coming up on Thursday, May 23rd at 2:30 Mountain Time. He's going to be there for live Q&A. You're going to want to ask him that. If you're interested in aviation or space stuff, he's your guy. And register for our next live on our Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn pages. So there's lots more I could talk about on Working Genius because, again, I am so fired up about it right now. But, I don't want to keep you guys all day here. I got to, watch it, or we'll be talking, I'll do a seminar for you. What'll happen is, we'll go through this stuff in depth. But do you have any more questions? If you do, please send them. If not, I'd ask you to follow us on social media, on all the basic channels, and give us feedback. It's your feedback that makes the difference for us getting the message out there and us making a difference. Because, again, Difference Makers Podcast, that's where the show was stimulated from. That was where this was birthed. And this is just another opportunity for us to interact with you and interact with people to truly make a difference in our community. Also, remember, we have a new podcast. The podcast is going to release actually, we released one today. We'll release one next Monday. We got to be on episode almost 220, right, guys? Pretty close to 220 now. So we've been doing this for a while. We have episodes on everything from a chocolatier maker. We have someone who has rescued horses. We've had someone who has built multiple companies. We've had lots of health shows, and you can tell by the title what the different podcasts are about. So that show highlights who it is that we are as a company and the people doing amazing things, making a difference. Should you have a question, you can call us. Our toll-free number is 866-812-3449. That's our toll-free number. Our local number, 303-733-6353. My email, Jim, Jim, at ramoslaw.com. If you have questions, if you've got comments on anything that we've talked about Working Genius, or listen, if you guys have something that you would like us to talk about, a guest you would like us to get, or at least if even we can't get the guest, whatever they do, maybe we can bring someone on to talk about that, either in one of these live settings or on our podcast. So with that, if there's no more questions, I will certainly let you guys get back to your day. But this was really a treat. I hope that you found some value in this that you can use, knowing that you are a genius. And the people that you work with, the people that you live with, everyone is a genius. We've just got to find ways to put them in that zone, put you in your zone as much as you can. So Until next time, I can't wait to do this live again. Love your feedback, love your comments. So until next time, get out there and keep making a difference. All right, guys, take care. Have a great day.